Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Wise Wealth. Today I've got Dr. Alka Patel, who is a doctor and longevity expert. Super excited to get this conversation going and work out how I can get to my peak performance and peak health so that I'm making better investment decisions within the markets. Stay tuned. Welcome. Thanks for joining us.
Oh, this is going to be such a good conversation, Sam. It really is. Hi.
Oh, I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to it. So, I suppose for everybody that doesn't know you, that's listening and watching, can you give us a brief introduction about yourself?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. So, in terms of what I do, is I predominantly look after and help entrepreneurs, executives, business owners to reverse aging, and we'll get into this to reverse aging, and really to do that in order to add longevity to their health and to their wealth. And I do that through a lifestyle optimization approach, a health optimization approach using health hacks and biohacking to enable
Okay.
that. So yeah, super exciting times.
So you talk about biohacking. Can you what does that even mean, I suppose?
Oh, it's a bit of a buzzword, isn't it? And I'm sure
Yeah.
some of the listeners would have kind of heard that and thought, what is that? So if we kind of break it down into the bio bit and the hacking bit. So my background is I've been a doctor now for over 25 years plus. Started off in the sort of land of general practice, and very much switched into this space of longevity and lifespan and health hacking. And if you look at the word biohacking, so the bio bit is about taking control of your biology. So I
Yeah.
very much want you to have a sense of control over your your biological systems, your neurology, your physiology, literally how you function. And then the hacking bit is taking over. So you're in a position, we're all in a position that we can take over the way that our body works, the way that our mind works in order to meet our personal goal, our professional goals. So that's the kind of the biohacking piece really is not about landing your health onto a doctor's lap or into a consultation room and expecting it to come back to you. It's really taking ownership of what you can do for your own health and have that responsibility.
Yeah, I'm intrigued. I suppose like someone for myself that's like heavily involved in investing, and that's my core focus. I think from my side of things, I'm always trying to stay on top of my health, making sure that how am I going to wake up tomorrow? How am I going to perform? How am I going to read the markets? How am I going to have a clear head? And yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think what actual stuff I do. I mean, like I gym frequently, don't get me wrong. That's one of my biggest parts of it, keeping my sanity, going down to the gym, keeping physically fit. I sauna, I ice bath, um, I take my vitamin tablets. What else is there that I'm missing?
Okay, so here's
Uh,
the thing, and this is kind of, I think, where a little bit of my unique approach really starts to kick in because you and all the people that are going to be tuning into this conversation, it's the investment world, right? And you're very used to looking at information,
yeah,
numbers, 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 numbers. How do you translate that into numbers that are related to your health? So a lot of people, like you, may well have smartwatches or data about themselves that they're collecting, but not doing the same sort of thing with it that you might be doing in your investment world. You're obsessing over numbers in your world, right? How
yeah,
about starting to have that same level of connection? And I'm going to use the word obsession with the data related to your health. Like you'll go and sit in the ice bath, or you'll go and have a sauna, or you'll count the steps on your watch. You do like 10 extra pulls. What is that really doing for your health data? How do you know that this stuff is helping you live a longer, healthier life rather than adding stress onto your body that you don't need?
okay,
That's the difference, right? So that's what I do. So I have this little method that I call the health hacking code. And it's very much about looking at data
yeah,
and using devices to make decisions about your health. So no more guesswork. This is not about Sam going, okay, I'll just go and sit in the sauna for an extra 10 minutes. This is about really tapping into what data and devices can you use to help you decide for sure with accuracy, like you need in your markets, right? With accuracy, what do you do for your health to really have an exceptional level of that?
So is that sort of like looking at They talk about like if you go into the ice bar, for example, you have increased testosterone coming out the back. You tell me if I'm wrong, by the way, you're the doctor. This is stuff that I've heard, which then helps if you go to the gym and helps with muscle building. Obviously, from a sauna perspective, I've heard that it's good for your cardiovascular, for your heart. It's good for your mind with stuff like Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, things like that. I suppose from a perspective, you've got this whole thing. You've got it's 10 years younger in 10 weeks.
Yeah, indeed.
What does that involve? Can you share some of the more about what that program is, or what that actually entails, I suppose?
Yeah, for sure, because that touches on everything that you've just spoken about. So I have a plan called the 10 in 10, 10 years younger in 10 weeks. And the first question I often get asked is, really? You can actually be 10 years younger? And I'm not talking just about how you look and how you feel. Yes, absolutely, you can look and feel 10 years younger. I'm talking about becoming 10 years younger. So in this plan, I measure your biological age at a very cellular level. So a lot of people like you who are gym goers might have seen those machines that you get at the gym and you stand on them and it tells you your kind of metabolic age or biological age. Not really accurate. Like it's not really
Yeah.
giving you the information that you
Well,
need.
I say the same thing about the body mass index as well. Like some of that stuff, where it tells you, I've seen some people on there that are really big, muscular, and it's just like you're obese. And you're like, you're far from it.
Yeah, yeah. And BMI is one thing. We have to kind of use that data in a specific way. So with the plan, what I do is I would send you a biological age test kit, for example, so you know exactly how old you are. Now you might be thinking, hang on a minute, I know how old I am. Like, I've got my birth certificate. The difference is chronological age and biological age. So your speed of aging, how long you're going to live, your lifespan, is not determined by the sun rises and the sun sets. It's determined by what's going on with your repair mechanisms in your cells, what your immune system is like, how much inflammation there is in your body. And honestly, Sam, we're living in such an amazing time that we can
Yeah.
measure all of that now. So I'd send that to you. And the other thing that's really, really important, if you think about, the whole health wealth connection, right, is that I'm sure lots of people listening here, yes, kind of wealth is very much on your mind. And that's probably got two parts to it. How do I make money? And then how do I use money? So when I come into this, I'm thinking, well, how does health fit into this? So in
Yeah.
order to make money, like you said, you need to be at your peak.
Yeah.
Productivity, concentration, focus, creativity, not having a niggling back pain, not having heartburn that sort of distracts you from what you're doing, really being at the peak of your health if you want to be at the peak of your wealth. We have to make that connection because it's so strong. And then in terms of then how you utilize your money, if you want to enjoy those holidays, if you want to enjoy trekking up mountains, if you want to enjoy time with your family, if you want to build a school in the third world, again, you need your health to do all of this so that you can enjoy all of that. So that's the kind of positioning with health and wealth. But when you look at the fundamentals of every single day, what do we need? We need energy. So I do, as part of the plan, I do a metabolic test, which is again looking at what over 150 different biomarkers of how you, Sam, make energy, how you use energy, because without it, we don't exist. And then on top of that, and this is the stuff that I really, really love, is the devices, right? The gadgets. Like who doesn't like a good toy?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
This is toys and beyond. So it'll be something like, I've got a little one here actually. This is a sugar sensor. So
Okay.
we put that on your arm
Yeah.
and measure your sugar levels all day long. Because one of the biggest drivers for aging, one of the biggest drivers for, and maybe you've experienced this, energy rises and then the energy crash,
Yeah.
or cravings around food comes from your sugar levels. Sugar is not the enemy. We have to know how to tame it so that it works for us. And these sugar sensors that I utilize, so I'll send you one, you'll put it on, and then I'll be seeing your data. I'll be tracking it with you. We'll be getting really curious about what's happened. And the reason this is a game changer is because there's this thing called the Hawthorne effect. I don't know if you've come across it. So what the Hawthorne effect is it's this effect that happens when you're being watched. So if I was watching you, there are certain things that you wouldn't do, right?
Yeah.
And knowing that you're being watched changes your behavior. So when you've got
Yeah.
a sensor on you and it's watching your sugar data, watching how you eat, how your sleep affects it, how your stress affects it, you start to change your behaviors because you've got those numbers and you're changing what you're doing according to the data, like you do in the investing
Yeah.
world, right? You change what you do according to the data. And it's a really, really powerful effect just being watched. So that's one piece of really critical data is sugar. And then the other device that I send out as part of the plan is something like a data ring. So
Okay.
this will capture all of your sleep data, for example, knowing how long it takes you to fall asleep, stay asleep, what's waking you up in the night if you are. And again, I see this amongst entrepreneurs all the time, is this: I don't need to sleep. I've got work to do. I want to get on with my day. I've got to be up at the crack of dawn. I've got to look at markets, all of this. But what you're doing is sacrificing your sleep
Yeah.
and then sacrificing your health in the process. So when we put all this data together, and a lot of people will have access to information, but they don't know what to do with it. Without an expert kind of
Yeah.
guiding you, knowing exactly what your data tells you, sometimes, and you'll know this from your world, data can be just overwhelming as well, can't it?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Sounds very, very interesting. Do you know what, as well? I have to be guilty. I don't monitor. I don't monitor my sleep. I don't monitor. I found that I just got sort of like paranoid with it when I was when I was putting it on, and I had sort of like my heart rate. I ended up getting like addicted to, okay, how can I get my heart rate going a bit more when I go to the gym, or it tells me that, you haven't beaten your personal best and your calories burnt and stuff like that. And I sit there and I'm like, I can't deal with this. I just need to go as per day of how it feels. But I suppose that, so if you take that information, then where do you go with that? So for example, let's take, if you use me as an example here, I sleep very light. That's why I go in the sauna. If I have a good sauna, I'm sort of KO'd for the night and I get a good night's sleep and I move forward. But if you have got someone that's coming to you saying, look, I'm not sleeping well, what do I do? Do you then prescribe them something, or do you change their diet, or do you say you need more of this vitamin? What's the sort of process that you would go down?
And it's exactly that. It's knowing what is the root cause of the not sleeping, because people might try stuff. I'll try and have the sauna at night and see if that works, or I'll try not to eat before I go to bed, or I'll try not to get on my phone. And a lot of the time you can't stick to those habits because you haven't got the information that tells you
Yeah.
the impact that it's having on you. So it's really about personalizing it. So I had a client recently, New York-based investor, in fact, and he asked me. He said to me, "What is the shortest amount of time that I can sleep, so I don't damage my health, but I'm
Yeah.
still on it and focused because I want to be awake as long as possible so I can work." Like super, super committed to his
Yeah.
work. And we went from that. You need to sleep. 8 hours
Yeah.
is ideal. 6 is your absolute minimum. Please don't
Yeah.
go less than that, because you won't have a memory left when you need it. Right? Honestly,
Okay.
the effects are there. The cancer's hot on your heels. The diabetes is going to be there. All of this is going to catch up with you without fail. It's guaranteed if you don't sleep. So please don't be one of those people who says, I'll sleep when I die, because
Yeah.
unfortunately you'll be dead if you don't sleep.
Yeah.
Um, and what we did with him was we looked at his data, and what we discovered was that it was his body temperature. So you need your body temperature to drop in order
Yeah.
for you to be able to fall asleep faster and then
Okay.
stay asleep. And what he was doing was exercising
Yeah.
later tonight. So that was rising his body temperature because he thought that would help him to fall asleep. And it was having the complete opposite effect. But he hadn't pinpointed it was that
Yeah.
until we looked at the data and saw, right, the temperature's going up. So that's what it is. And it's only a 0.1, 0.2 degree shift. So we shifted that for him. And then the other thing we did was drop into some intermittent fasting for him so that he wasn't eating close to bedtime, so that he was disengaging his nervous system that was needed for digestion so that he could drop into sleep. So again, the only way we knew that was working for him was by knowing that the data was pulling in to say he's going in the right direction. So there's lots of things you can do, but the question is it right for you?
Yeah. So would you say that these are sort of like habit changes rather than you need to boost your magnesium levels, or you need to boost your vitamin levels, things like that, your vitamin C, or is it a combination of that?
So it's absolutely both. So first of all, you've got to be guided by, so this metabolic test that I do, 150 different biomarkers will immediately tell you if magnesium is the thing that is driving or not driving your sleep. There is no point taking magnesium supplements if you're already optimally magnesiumized, if that's even a word. But a lot of
Yeah,
people do this, they'll go, oh, I'll just take a bit of that and take a bit of that. But it's like, don't waste your money on things that you don't need, but
yeah,
focus things that you do. And the problem is a lot of people don't want to do things that they need to do because it's easier just to take a bit of a magnesium supplement and then blame the supplement when you can't fall asleep. But actually, you haven't thought about the fact that you are stressing about your work, or that you try and fall asleep straight after that, 50th episode of Netflix that you promised you wouldn't watch, right? So,
yeah. Yeah, that's try to stay away too much from the Netflix. I find it fascinating, I suppose, and sort of like from the sort of case studies that you've sort of done, have you seen huge improvements through going through this process?
oh, massively. So, again, based on data, I've seen reversing aging. So, when you have your biological age test, age is one of those numbers that we're all a bit sensitive about, aren't we? It's like,
Yeah,
someone asks your age and you're immediately like, oh, guess, how old do you think I am? Because you want them to say
yeah,
something like
yeah,
stupid young, right? You're the same, right? So there's something about it that is, a real trigger. And often when I'm giving someone your biological age results, suppose you had a test with me, Sam, if you're older than your years, it's a real trigger to do something about it, a massive motivator. And if you're the same or younger, again, it's also a motivator because you want to keep doing the same or more
yeah,
of what you're doing, because you are going to chronologically get older every single year. So I think that's really, really key is, again, how do you use that information to be that driver for you to keep you focused on your health? And back to what you were saying about being obsessed and it having a negative effect. I think there's two ways of looking at that. You could be the ostrich with their head in the sand, and
yeah,
a lot of entrepreneurs are, because their business is the most important thing. They're focused on their work. That's all they're doing all day long. They don't have time for their health. And so if you are that ostrich in the sand and you go, I'd rather not know, you're going to end up with a big wake up call at some point in your life.
yeah. I think that, to be honest with me, I'm 32. I don't mind saying my age. I spent probably the best parts from when I was 18 years old just burning a candle at both ends of the stick. And I did get very ill off the back of doing that. Lack of hours sleep, trying to gym twice a day, morning, evening, and also doing all of the work in the markets at the same time. So I was trying to do absolutely everything. I think only now do I really sort of focus on my health inside of things of that. I suppose for the people listening, is there sort of any sort of daily routines or biohacks that the listeners could implement into their day-to-day life that would make it, let their life lead to a more healthier longevity?
Yeah, and I get this, I get asked this quite a lot as well. And I'm also always about the personalization. So I'm very, very happy to give the tips, but also with the proviso that you have to really know for you whether this is working or not working, back to data and devices and how you make decisions. But
Yeah.
there are certainly a number of things that can kind of trigger things in the right direction. So, for example, the one thing that a lot of people won't do is optimize their exposure to light. So
Okay.
one really useful health hack is to make sure you step out into the morning light when you wake up. And I'll tell you why I say this. So even on a cloudy day, if it looks as if it's grey and cloudy outside, getting outside in light gives you even more lux than being in this kind of indoor light. And I know a lot of people in
Yeah.
the investment world, business world, in the markets, you're indoors under artificial light all day long. And the way the brain works is it needs a differential. It needs to know this is light and this is dark, or this is day and this is night. And so when night hits, I'm going to release melatonin, which is then going to drift you into sleep. And without that differential, artificial lights like this that are in our homes or in our offices give about 500,000 lux of light. You step out on a really sunny, bright day, you're talking 100,000 lux of light. You step out on a cloudy day, you're still talking 5 to 10,000 lux of light. So get out into the light, let it hit the back of your retina. And then in the evening, like, do the opposite. Again, we're on our computers, we're on our emails, we're on our phones. Get some really snazzy blue block light glasses, which I've got some on my website if anyone wants to pop over
Okay.
and have a look. But like if you walked into my house in the night, we're all looking like cyborgs because like we've got these glasses on, and there's a reason for that, right? Because you want that depth of sleep. Like you said, I want to get into a kind of good deep sleep, KO, and wake up feeling refreshed. Like that's what everybody wants. You want to have that readiness for the day, and that's a kind of really simple thing to do. But it's only going to be simple if you make it a habit.
Yeah.
So that's certainly one key. When it comes to longevity, we have these pathways, these proteins, these longevity genes, and we're now in a position to be able to switch them on or switch them off. So the first question to ask yourself is, do I want to live a long life? Yes, I do. Right. So how am I going to activate my longevity genes? And this is where I talk about stress in a different way to how many people talk about stress. So you'll hear people saying you've got to be stress free and don't have stress in your life. I'm like, bring it on. Right, bring it on, bring on the stress, because without stress, you are dead. We need that activation, we need that cortisol to keep us going. But there's this particular type of stress called hormetic stress, HORMETIC, hormetic stress, and that's the sort of stress. That song, "What doesn't kill you makes you stronger."
Yeah,
it's that. So you've got to put your body under this survival kind of mode. And one way of doing that is through intermittent fasting, or I prefer to call it time-connected eating, where you're eating within a particular time window.
Yeah. I find that fascinating, that part. And the reason why I find that fascinating is if you read stuff like meditations from Marcus Aurelius and well, a lot of great leaders, they all do things that I've noticed that throughout their life has been very uncomfortable. And I always say, those sort of elderly people that sit down in front of their telly the entire day and don't move, they just turn into sort of vegetables. Whereas actually, if you were to do something that was uncomfortable for yourself, and almost sort of like, how to put it, training your body to sort of thrive in that uncomfortable environment. I have no scientific background on that, but from what I've read and what I believe is, I feel that actually that does create longevity. It gives you almost like a purpose to survive, to live longer, to replenish. And that's something that I've always actually spoken about, is learning to thrive in that uncomfortable environment. So I'd be interested to know if there is actually any science behind that, I suppose.
And I love that you're kind of attaching all that kind of cultural, historical, what people have been doing for centuries. And now we're starting to uncover actually there's science behind this. What we didn't believe is now, yes, there is science behind it. So absolutely there is this idea that you put yourself into survival mode. We've got, proteins, things that are called AMPK or sirtuins, or, different proteins, different enzymes, different genes that we're now uncovering because of science. So we're like, right, we can control this now. I can switch that on. And this whole idea of putting your body under enough strain so that it doesn't actually switch into chronic relentless strain. That is that chronic stress that is absolutely going to speed up aging. You are accelerating it. But where you're in a controlled environment, so things like, we'll talk about intermittent fasting maybe a little bit more, intermittent fasting, hypoxia, where you're not allowing yourself to fully oxygenate. So breath work and breath holding techniques, going the other way as well, hyperbaric oxygen chambers. I utilize those with my clients as well. Cryotherapy, you mentioned, kind of saunas and things earlier. So kind of doing that to your body in the opposite way. We now know about red light therapy, for example, that goes right into kind of a different cellular layer. So it's those sorts of practices that make a huge difference, because they turn on that metabolic switch that says, I need to now know how to survive and thrive. And then your body, a bit like when you go to the gym, right? You tear your muscles, right? I now know to know how to repair and regenerate, because this is coming at me. So intermittent fasting is great to do that. I did a 5-day fast just a couple of weeks ago.
5 days.
5 days, yeah.
Do you know what? I've really tried, and it's probably the worst thing. I can do, like, the small stints where they're like, don't eat for 12 to 18 hours. But when I get past that point, I don't know if it's because I drink a fair amount of tea. and I'm probably going to say, be honest, probably 5 to 7 cups of tea a day. I probably drink quite a bit of tea. But the thing is I just end up getting these crazy amount of headaches. It doesn't matter how much water I drink. And I feel that maybe in order to do it, I need to sort of like wean off of the caffeine. For it feels like that's maybe what I'm having. I'm having like caffeine withdrawal symptoms, if that's even a thing. But
Yeah.
that's what it feels like. And so when I hit that, I'm like at 18 hours, I'm like, I just need to eat something. But maybe I'm doing something wrong.
And you're right. There, you want to have a bit of preparation around this before you drop into a full kind of 5 day fast. And the thing is that what you've said is, right, which is why I always talk about blending innate intuition with transformative technology. Like intuitively, innately, listen, you know what, 7 cups of tea a day, it really isn't doing what I need it to do for me. And
Yeah,
yet you still keep having them because it's giving you
yeah,
something that you think you need. You
yeah,
think you did. So you've got to kind of think about, why is this important enough for me to not have this level of tea? And then prepare yourself to just, have that gradual wean from it, or go cold turkey, because I sometimes going cold turkey does the job if you can get through that headache
yeah,
time. Makes you hydrating in other ways and is supported through that. And then it gives you the opportunity to do that next level of health optimization. Do that 5 day fast, see what that does, how that mops up all of the proteins and your mitochondria that are not working well to create energy. It gives you a totally next level of connecting with what your body needs right now. We all need that. But I 100% agree. It's not the easiest
yeah,
thing to think about doing, let alone then do. So you've got to have a reason. You've got to know why. And certainly for me, when I do this with my clients, it's about giving you the knowledge and information and the science behind it. So they're like, right, yeah, this is on day one, this is happening to me. And on day two, this hormone's kicking in. And on day three, that protein's kicking in. And learning to trust your body, like, give your liver the liberation to just do what it knows to do. Like, it's got your back, Sam, right? It's not gonna let you
yeah,
down. Okay.
yeah.
It's there for you.
It is it's a fascinating it's fascinating. I suppose from like an intermittent fasting, obviously treatment like an idiot, but is intermittent fasting simply the same as, let's take a car? If I'm to drive that car all day, every day, it's going to run down a lot quicker than if I drove that car maybe once or twice a week. Is it the same thing when you intermittent fast? You're not utilizing your body for digesting, so to speak, as much as what you normally would on a day-to-day basis. I think I looked at some sort of, treat it with a pinch of salt, but I'm pretty sure I looked at a study between like a rat that had 3 meals a day and a rat that had a meal every other day. And the rat that had the meal every other day lived longer than the one that was eating 3 times a day.
Yeah.
Um, and
Yeah.
is that as simple as it is, or is there more to it than that?
No, I mean, obviously metabolically, it's like, there's a lot going on in your body, but it is exactly that. You're switching on these longevity pathways. So I mentioned the sirtuins and AMPK and mTOR, and they're just kind of abbreviations for specific enzymes and proteins that you activate. It's like, why did that mouse live longer?
Yeah.
Did that other mouse get more obese and not live longer? And it's exactly that. So your analogy is great. It's about efficiency. It's like, what's the most efficient fuel that you can put in your body? And the thing is that we're always repairing and regenerating. So you've got mitochondria in your body, in all of your cells. They're the little battery packs that are in your cells,
Yeah.
but they do get worn out. And the problem is if you don't remove the worn out parts, you don't make space for new parts, you don't make space for new mitochondria. So
Yeah.
what this sort of fasting does, and more so with a more prolonged fast, is it starts to get rid of the debris. Go, you're an inefficient cell, don't quite need you for this particular body. We'll move you on, and we'll make space, and we'll create new mitochondria, new energy sources, new battery packs. So what you're doing is really enhancing your efficiency. And then in the real world, that shows up as you being a more efficient human being, right? And
Yeah.
that's what we all want. We want to all be like efficient and productive and perform at our best and feel really good while we're doing it.
Would you say that whilst you did that 5 day fast, that you was at your peak, though, efficiency during the 5 days, or is it only after that you feel that you're then at your peak? Because I'm sure I saw a series with Chris Hemsworth on Disney, and he's literally did a whole series about longevity, and I'm pretty sure he had to do, I think it was like a 3 or 4 day fast, and then after that he had to then go and hunt for his food, uh, to show that he apparently, like, you're more switched on because your body is now in fight or flight, as in we need to eat after this period of time. He was more switched on from it, and he's a big muscular guy. He played Thor, and if he's to on day 4 he was just laying there like it was a sack of potatoes. He was super struggling with his fast and stuff. He stuck to it, but it looks painful. I mean, I don't know how you found it, but yeah, it looked painful.
Oh, that's so interesting. So, when I've run the marathon last year, and they talk about kind of hitting the wall at a certain level. There is something that happens on day 4, like it's like hitting the wall. But then there's only one more day to go. Do you know what I mean? So it's like I can get through this. I can get through this. But I definitely had an energy peak. I could see it, and part of that was there's the whole kind of mental physical connection, isn't there? And a lot of that came from this, again, back to innate intuition. I'm trusting my body. I know you've got me, and really believing that and buying into that. So even when that headache arrives because you haven't had your caffeine, it's like, you've got me. Like, there's no way that this headache's going to last for 5 days. Like, I know it's going to go. So you just got to allow yourself to kind of trust that. Then there's something about what is your mind focusing on? Because if you carry on focusing on food, you're kind of making it much harder for yourself. So, being busy, having an active, busy day. But what I found was my energy 100% kind of peaked through those first 3 days. Day 4 was a kind of mental energy drain rather than a physical one. Physically, I felt amazing the whole time. And the beautiful thing is that lasts. So it's not that you need to be doing kind of 5-day fast every other week. That energy, I've had a great couple of weeks. I can genuinely say I feel very, very energized. And I'm not saying it's all down to that one thing of, a 5-day fast, but the contributions to that have been huge. And I do it in a measurable way. Like, I've looked at my HRV, my heart rate variability, another brilliant parameter to measure in terms of kind of your stress and your adaptability. And my heart rate variability has gone up and it has stayed up. Amazing.
Okay. And how often do you do like a 5-day fast? Do you do like a 1 day sort of weekly or monthly, and then a 5-day every 6 months? What's the sort of, how do you apply it to yourself?
So the time connected eating for me is something that's now just part of my lifestyle. So this morning, for example, I'll have had a liter of water, a glass of warm lemon juice, which is how I like to kind of kick off my day. And that doesn't start the digestive processes. So anything that you're kind of eating or drinking, make sure it's not kicking off digestion. And then I will normally kind of put that first bit of food in my mouth somewhere around 1:30 is my mark. And that works for me because I like to eat late in the night, like a little bit later,
Okay.
So what I found was when I tried to do it a bit earlier, I'd be like foraging for food at like 8 or 9 o'clock, and it's kind of out of that window. So you've got to make it part of your lifestyle. And then the 5-day fast, my intention is to do it as a minimum once every 3 months. So once again, according to the research and the science that's out there, is this kind of level of needing to mop everything up, and this process called autophagy, which some of your listeners might have heard of, is like thinking about Pac-Man going around your body, kind of mopping up all the things that need to be there and kind of coming out the winner, right? Is every 3 months. Could do every month, but I'm going to go with every 3 for now. And I guess the other thing is there's a lot of research around fasting mimicking diets, which you might be quite interested in, where it's not a complete no food fast at all. So what I did was 5 days of water. But again, you can see this on my website. You might put some links up later, but I've got a link to what's called a fasting mimicking diet, which is where you are eating, but you're eating but without activating your digestive pathways or your aging pathways. So there's this thing called nutrient sensing. So there's 12 hallmarks of aging that happen at a kind of more cellular level. And one of those is nutrient sensing. So once your body starts to sense nutrients, then it's in activation mode. But so long as you kind of go under the radar, it's almost like trying to get, under the radar,
Yeah.
that you're tricking your body into thinking you're fasting when really you're not. So there's just that kind of low level of nutrients that it's not really sensing. And so you are eating, but like a certain amount. So with this particular diet, and it's called Prolon, so you can find it on my website with a link to a discount, if that's something you'd like to think about, is 5 days of fasting with specific foods. Through that time, lots of hydration, of course, but you still stay under the radar, you still activate autophagy, and you're still reversing aging on a continued basis as well. So that might be a good kind of stepping stone.
Yeah, I think so. That for me would probably sounds like a lot more of a good step. So you just said a minute ago that you eat at sort of like 1 o'clock. And then you eat late. So you eating 2 meals a day?
I am at the moment, yeah. So sort of the breakfast, the breakfast is the 1:30 meal, and then later on. But I tend to sort of have my evening meal by about 6 o'clock. I haven't quite got into the OMAD 1 meal a day phenomenon.
And so from your perspective, like, and you've been doing this, I don't know how long have you been doing your meal? You've been doing 1 o'clock, say 6 o'clock.
Several years now. It's just
okay.
It's just life.
And so you wear blue light blocking glasses in the evening.
Yeah, I have my like sensor on my arm every month, and I've got gadgets everywhere. This is a blood pressure machine. This is my kind of heart and sleep. It's great.
And so through doing this, like, obviously I'm not going to ask what your age is now, but your biological age, how much have you reduced it by through applying this?
My biological age is 30 years younger than I am chronologically.
That is crazy. And that's scientifically backed, is it, that your biological age is 30 years old? Wow.
Yeah. So because we can now measure it. So biological age, and there's a number of ways of measuring it. The way I measure it is in a very dynamic way. So looking directly at your immune system and your inflammation in your body. Because at the end of the day, we are a defense organism. We're constantly kind of defending ourselves. So when you can see that in real time and know which lifestyle switches are enabling that, that's the real evidence. Yeah.
And just between us, do you have any cheat meals and meals out and things like that?
Yeah, look, you know what? I think we have to be really honest about this, right? Is that what is your way of life? And and also I think we kind of probably need to stop talking about things like cheat meals and going clean, or this is dirty or whatever, because we get into that mental frame of, okay, I'm not allowing myself this.
Yeah,
I have permission to eat what I want, when I want, how I want, and I want all your listeners to have exactly the same. But what you choose then is determined by how you feel. And so when you start feeling good on this way that you're living your lifestyle, you're going to carry on focusing on that. Yeah, look, you know what? I'll go out for pizzas with my kids on a Saturday night, and very happily get takeaways on a Friday night. So it's not that at all. It's not that at all. But what I know is, let's just go with 80-20. Most people kind of know the 80-20 rule. I'm good with that. And that's what kind of I think we should be allowing ourselves to do, is zigzag or flip-flop. Because the moment you become overly rigid, that stress that you add because of that rigidity is negating all the things that you're doing anyway. If you're enjoying it, carry it on. And the way to know as well is to know, again, keep coming back to data. Know your data. Everyone here listening loves data, right? Know your own data. I talk about things like KPIs and KPPIs. So people in business are used to measuring KPIs, the key performance indicators in their business, to keep them on track. What about your KPPIs, your key personal performance indicators? Use those to keep you on track. Have a guide, have an expert by your side to make sure that you are interpreting this information well. If I was going into investing, I would need to come to someone like you to go, hey, Sam, show me the ropes. And likewise, the other way.
Yeah. Wow, absolutely fascinating conversation. Really, really, really interesting. I suppose, where can the listeners find out more information if they want to come to yourself and get on the longevity journey of reducing their age?
Oh, which, who doesn't, right? Tell me which which investor, which business owner, which entrepreneur doesn't say, I want to live my longest, healthiest life possible because I've got things I want to do on this planet. I've got gifts and skills to share. I want to leave a mark, I want to have an impact, and I want to feel good doing that. Like, no one is going to deny that. So come and find me. My website is an easy place, dralkapatel.com. You can message me directly on there. Also the socials, Dr. Alka Patel UK as well. I'm very, very happy to have conversations because, the reason I work with entrepreneurs and business owners is primarily because you're doing such amazing things, like, wanting to make a difference to other people's lives. So important that I can help you to take care of yourself so that you can take care of others. I think that's the biggest thing.
Sure. Amazing. Awesome. Thank you so much. It's actually been really, really interesting and super excited. I'm probably going to jump on board and see where this takes me and see what my biological age is.
Yes, 100%. I'd love to test your biological age and get some numbers down and yeah, 100%. Let's do it.
Do a case study. Yeah. Amazing. Thank you. So guys, thanks for watching that. Super interesting, especially about the intermittent fasting side of things and, cold water exposure, saunas, and how people can improve their lifestyle and health overall to be making better investment decisions. If you've enjoyed this episode, let me know how you're focused on your longevity pathway in your life in the comments, and don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button.